Okay, let's now bring in political analyst Professor Barry Hanyane to speak to us on the coalition update we today received from two of the opposition parties, that's the EFF and the DA. A very good afternoon to you, Prof. Always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so very much for joining us on SABC News.
Good afternoon, Flo. Good afternoon to your viewers.
Now, of course, the DA and EFF have both held their press briefings today on progress or non-progress, really, on the coalition talks that they are having. It seems that the DA seems comfortable about getting into bed with the FF+. I heard the DA leader mentioning the FF+ quite a bit in that press briefing, and the EFF not really getting their way, it seems, especially when we're talking about coalition with Action SA. Your thoughts, especially given that the EFF has closed the door on talks with the ANC. How will this play out?
Flo, it's early days, although firing shots have been heard. I think so far, let's appreciate the fact that the DA has been the first to leave the line, and they've been very preemptive. Firstly, by making sure that their own set of rules are established so that they can't be bossed around. And here we are. If you start calculating the number of clinched deals, as it were, from a coalition perspective, it seems the DA is leading the race as things stand. But accidentally, the kingmakers for 2021, either by default or by design, seems to be the Freedom Front Plus, which I suspect might unseat the position of the EFF as the kingmakers that we saw in 2016.
Yeah.
What is also interesting is Gayton McKenzie's patriotic front that has put up not only principles, but their own people in key positions. And this is one particular position that they are not willing to negotiate on. So trends are beginning to emerge. Characterization of a kind is now beginning to lay bare. And it will be interesting that less than a week left, we might see some kind of outcomes that may favor other parties at the disadvantage of others.
Yeah, I mean, that's in fact, it seems you anticipated my next question, because I wanted to ask at this point, it's quite unclear who the kingmakers are, but you seem adamant about the fact that it is indeed the FF+, and does that then put the EFF really on the back foot as we sort of go forward, or will they just take their position as being oppositions? I mean, I know that the EFF certainly wanted to take over Tshwane. They've mentioned that they would have loved to see a situation where Action SA were to take Joburg, and of course ANC retains Ekurhuleni. But it doesn't seem that this master plan that the EFF wants will come to fruition. And now I'm wondering how then it would then look in those particular metros.
Flo, as things stands, I think the biggest loser in these elections will most definitely be the EFF. And perhaps the narrative that they have themselves to blame might hold water here. Remember, in 2016, they chose not to actively participate in some of these coalitions. One. Two, they wanted to be the architects of a different kind of a coalition pattern. And they referred to this as coalition arrangements against the tradition of coalitions globally, against the traditions of coalitions in South Africa. And in the process, not allowing their own members to be given positions and so forth. And that, for me, may have been the turning point, because then this means EFF is not bringing experience, and the other parties are wary of that. So they can simply walk away from any possible deal with the EFF, as I suspect is the case with the DA. The DA has found new friends in the polity. FF Plus is no doubt there for them. And let's not forget, these elections were more about local issues. So any organization that wants to promote a local matter, a local agenda, such is the case in Cedarburg, will most certainly feel at home to deal with the DA. So in the end, let's not be surprised that the DA might walk away with a bigger basket of benefits than any other party.
With some of these smaller parties, you seem in a good position at this time, not be upsetting their voters when they even consider having negotiations and talks with the ANC, because for the most part, those who didn't vote would have essentially voted for the ANC, and some of those who did vote then sort of were trying to punish the ANC in certain ways. And I'm wondering about how this looks for a party who got the votes due to the fact that the ANC might have lost some of their voters, and then you're going into bed with the ANC. I mean, how does that look for that person who voted for that particular party?
Well, such parties will be reminded of the bad deal that the AIC from Matatiel got from the ANC in order to clinch Ekurhuleni. Things did not go well, but here we are. The AIC chose not to rattle the cage, go with the flow as things stand, and I think smaller parties will be reminded of that memory, and it might not necessarily favor the ANC. So the ANC is on the back foot. There's no doubt about the reality as things stand. What they can opt for is that, notwithstanding the prospect of by-elections, which could be the last resort, some kind of mechanism built within our legislative framework where we might have a minority government might be the only solution. But again, it doesn't give ANC much power, much prestige that they are accustomed to. So they might as well start preparing to warm up those opposition benches.
Yeah, and I mean, how important are the next 3 years? I mean, not only for the ANC, obviously, that has a lot of work to do in trying to convince, their voters not only to vote, but also those that had not voted for them to vote for them, but also the smaller parties in terms of having to really work hard to prove themselves in the next 3 years until the national elections. I mean, this could play out very differently for the South African political landscape when we're looking at 2024, aren't we?
So you're quite right. So in essence, there is no need and a pressing need for that matter to revisit your so-called sunset clause. Things naturally happen, and it's all thanks to the appetite that our constitutional court held in terms of ensuring that there is fairness, there is constitutionality, and of course, there's the element of social justice. And here we are. We're sitting with the prospect of changing the 2024 election patterns. For the first time, you'll have your independent candidates. We've already enjoyed seeing them participating since 2016. So in essence, the South African polity will never be the same again. And it's up to the ANC to actually sit back, make sure that tough decisions are taken, modernize the party, reinvent a workable machine. And unfortunately, as things stand, with staff that is not being paid, bad working conditions, as it is reported or alleged in the House, things are not looking well going forward for the majority party here. And I think 2024 will be that litmus test that they will have to face.
All right, Prof. Barry Hanyane, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your input, as always, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.